Andrea here with the Hit.OR.DIE podcast to give our friend and listener a huge shout out. Cal Valley Electric serves all of your electrical needs, big and small. With over 14 years of experience in commercial buildings, schools, hospitals, offices, and of course residential property, Cal Valley Electric can handle it all. Cal Valley Electric also offers turnkey solar and home inspections. For any of your electrical needs, contact Adam Moreno with Cal Valley Electric at 559-577-4018 or by email adam@calvalleyelectric.com. Again, that number is 559-577-4018. Thank you, Cal Valley Electric, for sponsoring this episode of Hit or Die.
You're listening to the HIT.OR.DIE podcast with hosts Jake Soldati and Chad Rothberg.
Hey everybody, welcome to the HIT.OR.DIE podcast episode 30. We're here with Billy Simas, originally from Lemoore.
Correct.
Born in Hanford though, and then went to St. Joseph's High School out of Santa Maria. You were drafted out of there. It said the 35th round, but you said you were drafted in the 42nd.
I could have thought that what it was, but I'll take the 37.
You ended up going to Fresno City, won a state title in 92, drafted in the 6th round in 92 by the Angels. 6 seasons in MLB, faced over 1,400 hitters with a career ERA of 3.83. Traded in 95 to the White Sox. And MLB debut August 15th, 1995 versus the Angels, the team that drafted you, and pitched a scoreless inning in relief. Spent time with the Tigers, Dodgers, and Mariners organizations. Also spent a season in the Mexican League. Retired in 2011 and became the pitching coach of the Ogden Raptors, the Dodgers organization. And then was promoted to pitching coach for the Class A Great Lakes Loons in 2013, the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes in 15, Double A Tulsa in 16 and 17, and the past 2 seasons with Oklahoma City, the AAA affiliate with the Dodgers. Billy, thanks for coming on the show with us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll get right into, in high school, what was it like? The draft process, obviously different than it is today. And we talked a little about this yesterday. Drafted in the 35th round, we'll go with that. But you didn't really have any college offers. Was Fresno City kind of how'd you get seen by Fresno City?
I'm actually I didn't have much exposure in high school. I played all 3 sports, so it was one of those things. It's a little Catholic school, 600 people. You can catch a ball. You played football. You can throw a ball. Play all sports. Not much exposure. There was a bird dog, Solvera, last name Norm Solvera. He just kind of saw me and took a shot on me. They had no intentions in drafting me. It was a draft and follow back then, and they don't have any more, but that was their intention. The guy came and Paul Fryer came and said, "Hey man, I wouldn't go. I'd just go to college." And the whole time I was going to be a dual athlete and play basketball and baseball at Hancock, their local community college in Santa Maria. And once I got drafted, that changed everything, and I just concentrated on baseball. So played there for a year, didn't get drafted. Go on and play for the Santa Maria Indians. Played with Brian Fonts and a few guys from Fresno City, and they knew I was a little bit disappointed. I only pitched 5 games. I played right field, first base, and we thought Ozzy Osbourne at the time was just doing that so I would come back for my sophomore season, which may or may not be the truth, but they talked me into coming to City, and the rest is history, man. It was the best thing I ever did.
And we'll go into that. You come to Fresno City, 92. I think it was year 2 of Coach Scott. Was it his second year?
We're really close there. I'm not sure exactly.
I think he got there in 90, I think, or 89. Either 89 or 90 was his first year. So, and it's a young Ron Scott, jet black stash. And what was that season like, going from Hancock, playing with some of the guys in summer ball, and then going to Fresno City and winning a state title?
Yeah, it was kind of like a dream team. I mean, just everybody came together at once there, and it was really funny. I was kind of a late addition there, but Jacobson was already there. There was a bunch of guys. Ming had transferred from Vegas. He was kind of instrumental in the thing. You had Taglione, who was there, as Scotty Lance had already played there, and you had Kyle Felstead was a fallback from Fresno State. He got injured. You had Chris Saunders come back from Cal. So just all of a sudden, here was this dream team, and and we did it, man. It was an awesome journey.
Yeah, I think Saunders was the MVP of the final four. I think.
Yeah, it was crazy. He hit a ball so far. I mean, those Green Label Eastons back then, they had a little thump, and he was hitting them off light towers and everything else. Man, it was amazing.
And we were talking about Coach Scott. I was fortunate to play with him. I play for him, and you mentioned his dry humor. Do you have anything that you can say on air, or is it just?
Yeah, I read your questions, and I was, oh man, that's a tough one. I just remember he was young back then, so he had a little more grit to him, but. Just his dry humor, and when he was mad, he never really got mad and yelled at us. He just kind of put us down with his humor and stuff, and it's amazing. He's a great guy, and most of the stuff, unfortunately, I can't say on there, but it was a fun time.
You talk about like just what he's done there, for all these years and players he's put out, and you're on the wall and see all those guys out there. What's that like, and knowing what he's done?
I think it's awesome, man. Ron's a great guy, and just for him to have the long-standing, relationship with the community and the things he does, the party he puts on in January, fundraiser for everyone. Everyone talks about it all year and can't wait for it to happen again. I just think he's done great for a lot of people, and now it seems like he's even putting more guys into, prestigious colleges, the higher ones. I guess he's been around long enough now that they respect him a little bit more, and he's able to put guys into some big programs, man. I think he's done a great job there.
Well, talking about college, in 92, drafted 6th round. Did you have any offers? Were you getting recruited college-wise, not just seen professionally?
No, I was kind of just a guy that just wanted to go play, go see what I can do. College was never something on my agenda. I always wanted to play, so I think that word kind of got out, and I did have one kind of bargaining chip for me for the signing thing was Lewis and Clark. I was going to go box and do all that with that chef. I think that's his name, but
yeah,
I heard about all the crazy stuff he used to do there, but that was my only offer.
Nice. And then Angels, right? Get drafted by the Angels. Give us that time, what it's like getting there through the minors, and then when you get traded, what that feeling. Obviously, the feeling of getting drafted, your dream comes true, and then your feeling of you're in the minors and you get traded.
Yeah, the draft was always something on my mind, and especially since it happened in high school, I thought, well, it's going to happen again. And, just coming to Fresno City with all the exposure, and then going on to the state and winning the state and pitching against Sac City and holding them down, and all the people that came to see that game, I think that kind of pushed me up the ladder just a little bit. But it was an exciting time. But then you realize that it's not fun. It is fun, but it's not. It's a job now. It's not just show up to the yard, throw your clothes on, and get to work. But it's a full-time job, and you just got to grind it away.
How was that transition for you? Like getting one to the next?
Yeah, I think the first couple of years were a little tough because when you have all that time on your hands to do nothing, you kind of tend to do nothing. So, just kind of hang out with your friends, and you're like you're on vacation. So it took me a while to realize you got to keep working through the winter and getting better and doing stuff to enhance your career without being on the field.
And at City, were you starting games at City?
Yeah, I was a starter, and then I was a starter for a year and a half in the minor leagues. And in the Midwest League, I was 0-6 with an 8, and at the time it was the Angels manager now, Joe Madden was a farm director. He came to me and he said, we're putting you in the bullpen. I said, man, that's the worst mistake you can make. I'm a starter, yada, yada, down the line. 2.5 years later, I give him a hug every time I see him and say thanks for doing that, because I was in the big leagues in 2.5 years. So that was one of those things in your career where somebody saw something and it worked out right. But at the time, I didn't think so.
And so go through the process. You're with the Angels. You become a reliever. Obviously, being a coach in the minors and for an organization, when you go out to play every day, you're not just playing for that organization.
Correct.
You're playing for all organizations, because they have scouts at every single game, watching everybody for trades, Rule 5 guys, stuff like that. So obviously when they made that transition to relieving, it might have opened some eyes of other ball clubs, especially the White Sox. So how did that come about with the getting traded there?
Yeah, I think they always had that in the back of their mind. Now people transition to a reliever way sooner than they did then. Before, it was if you were one of the better arms, you went as a starter. And then when they thought that played out, the more innings you can get, you can develop faster, throw more pitches, and become a reliever. So I think I always had the tag as a reliever because one in the winter, we went and played San Diego State when I was at Fresno City. And I pitched 2 innings under the lights, and I was 91, 92. And I didn't pitch at 91, 92 as a starter. I was 88, 90, 91 maybe at best. So I think they always had that tab on me as a reliever, but it was just a matter of when, and they did it sooner than I thought they would.
And then the White Sox come. What's that like, getting that call? Was it during the offseason or
with McKay?
Was
Yeah.
it?
McKay Christensen was in that trade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was 5 of us. Yeah, it was interesting.
I thought that was just cool because two
Two
local
Valley
products.
did, yeah.
Yeah, I knew nothing about McKay playing baseball because I was home in '94 in the winter, and I heard he had broke all these touchdown records in his senior year, but he didn't play his junior year. So here he comes his senior year, and all I could read about was, hey, McKay Christian's football player. Then all of a sudden we drafted him as a White Sox. I said, whoa, I didn't even know he was a baseball player. But that's a really cool thing.
And then traded. You get up in the big leagues with 2.5 years, like you said. You said you had a really good story about that call up.
Yeah, I do. We were in New Orleans at a Bennigan's, and we were at a round table, and there's probably about 6 to 10 of us guys, all pitchers, and we're reading the box scores in the USA Today when there was papers, and and they went 14 innings, and we were all just kind of joking, man. They got to need some help. They got to need some help, and sure enough, I got paged. Bill Simas come to the front desk. You got a phone call, and I looked around the table like, who's not here? Thinking somebody was messing with me. So I go up there, and it was Dan Evans, who was the assistant general manager, and he told me, hey, go pack your bag and get a hold of Clubby and get your stuff and get to the airport. We need you tonight. And I said, hey, come on, man. Who are you? I never met anybody. I had only been there like 2 weeks. So sure enough, I get my stuff and head to the airport and call my dad. That's collect call, to my parents. It was the only one I called, and got there, got to the airport. Danny picked me up, turn on the game. We listened to it on the radio, get there about the 3rd inning. First person I see is Frank Thomas. He was DH in that day, and I'm like, holy cow, if everyone's this big, man, I don't belong here, Unfortunately for me, they aren't that big, but all of them. And then I was in there in the 9th inning. By the time I got dressed, it was the 5th. I went around the center field, man, and I was in there in the 9th inning. Phone rang. I didn't have time to think about it. I think it's the best way to go, and it worked out good.
Yeah, just not even just
You.
almost no nerves, because you're just trying to get to the bullpen, and then hey, you're warming up, kind of.
That's it. And we have all the security guards are coppers in Chicago. Most of them, I think, in stadiums are cops or ex-cops. And Tom Kelly was a bullpen guy. They're the security guy in the bullpen. And I was thumbing through a book, and, he's a forensic photographer for the Chicago PD. So you can imagine what these Polaroids were. And I was a little, caught off guard by that. And then the phone rings in the 9th, and I'm in the game facing Chili Davis, who I was in spring with. And the rest was history. So I think it was the best thing, because if I had gone home that night, I probably wouldn't have slept. Come back the next day wondering, when's my debut, and, probably making myself a little more nervous that way. And this way it was like, man, I got it out of the way. I didn't even have to think about it. And, I blinked, and I was in and out. And so it was great.
Did you get your first K in that debut?
My first AB, Chili Davis.
Chili Davis?
Heater in looking. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was.
You talked about walking in and seeing Frank Thomas, and I know your guys Griffey and Frank Thomas was him and Chipper Jones.
Same
Those
era.
were my guys. I loved Frank Thomas, but did you have more moments like that where you like, oh, this no shit, that's
Like you're in the big leagues?
Well, I think every stadium I went to after that, when you're stretching, you're in the middle of the field. There's nobody in the stands, and there's you just look around, and you just kind of look at the stadium, and you're in awe that, hey man, I'm here. Like this is it. And I think it was every time I went to a new stadium, and you just look around, and you're just like, holy cow, there's going to be people in these seats,
who's one of the toughest guys you've ever had to face?
That's a good question. Juan Gonzalez. His bat to ball skills were minus his power. His bat to ball skills were really good, and I didn't have enough separation in my pitches for him. I would throw him, I splitted his shoe tops, and he'd foul it off. I'd throw him a neck high fastball, he'd foul it off. And he was one of my toughest guys. I think he took me deep once on a slider off the foul pole, and I may have got him out a few times, but I know every time I had to throw 10 pitches, it seemed like.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And what's that? I mean, kind of go through the grind, like you're up there for what, 6 straight? And I mean, what's that like? How hard is it to really get through a full season?
Well, it can be tough. I mean, you're flying east to west coast, trying to get sleep on a plane. You got the time changes. Back then there was not this new nice turf that everybody has. You had the Torontos, you had to go the Minnesotas, you had to run on that turf. Your legs hurt you. I started having kids early in my career, and nobody knows. Fans don't know. If you had a sick kid at home, you didn't get any sleep. All they know is you need to perform tonight. And there's just a lot of factors that go into it, and it's a grind. It's a long year. You have to take care of yourself. You kind of learn, how to do stuff throughout your career to kind of help and alleviate some of that. But it is definitely a grind.
I know these guys would talk about in the off season. You would come pitch. You faced him, right?
I have one hit.
Oh, yeah.
I have one career.
Do you want to tell that story?
I don't even know what it was. It had to be a fastball. Anything else, I probably wouldn't have. It might have been the first pitch too, because I was just like, big leaguer. I gotta get out, and I love the first pitch. So, and he's not. He's just trying to get his work in, so he's not really like, I'm going to start him off change up.
Throwing you a bullpen.
Yeah, but we're trying.
I know one hit for sure.
Did you get the ball? Did you get the ball?
No.
Oh, man.
Did you have, we talked to Luplo and how like coming into the league, you have those wow moments like we were talking about of like this big leaguer that you've been watching even growing up and stuff, and like about autographs, how they do it now with passing balls through the clubhouse area and stuff. Did you ever have any of those moments like, I need to get this autograph? This is like one of my idol type guys that I looked up to.
It's one thing I wish I would have done better in my career. I really didn't do a whole lot of that. The one guy that I did pass the ball across to, and probably one of the first ones, and not the last, obviously, but one of the very first ones I did was Paul Molitor. I respected him for a long time. And he was old at the time, and he changed his stance all the time, and he was grinding through a big league career, and I sent a ball over, and I have Molitor. But other than that, I was fortunate enough to meet, play with greats like Robin Ventura and Tony Phillips. I mean, I can go down the list. Albert Bell, Frank Thomas. So I can get those guys. They were relatively easy. Didn't really do a whole lot of this stuff across the diamond. Didn't do it.
How was Albert Bell? I know nowadays when you see Albert Bell, you always see the video of him, Colcock and Vina right in the middle of in between second and first. Obviously he was a competitor and very tough and wanted to win. How was he in the clubhouse with you guys? Was he that kind of guy, or was he like nice and laid back?
Yeah, I tell everybody this, and they think I'm crazy, but I think he was a great teammate, and he did some stuff off the field that maybe, he wasn't a great person. But I think as far as a teammate in the clubhouse, he was a great guy. I didn't like the way he kind of treated some of the people. I was his locker mate for a couple years. And I do have a little quick story about him is I'd come in and, I was locker right next to him, and I'd get there sometimes before him, but he was always early to the field. And our lockers there was a ground, and then it stepped up, and you put your shoes up in there. And he was going off on a clubby that was 20 years old, and his job was to vacuum the floor, so he had put his shower shoes up. Well, he was really superstitious. So he was mad at him, getting all over him. And I said, hey, AB, what do you want me to do here for you, man? He said, he put my shower shoes up here. They're supposed to be on the ground. I said, okay, I'll put them on the ground from now on for you, So he kind of did that kind of stuff. But as far as a teammate to other players and stuff, he was great.
Yeah. And then you had Tommy John.
Yes, sir.
I'm part of that club, but I didn't do it. I did it doing stupid things. Go through that, because nowadays going through that back when you were playing is totally different than the way it is now. And even the recovery of guys coming back the way they are now compared to back in the day. So what was that like going through Tommy John? Did you have that sense of my career might be over, trying to come back from that injury?
Well, just being, the athlete and the guy that make it, to the big league. So my mind was strong. I never did think that my career was over by any means, but it was a very tough for me. I was 30 years old. I was old, so older. So the recovery time wasn't as well as, a 21-year-old kid or whatever. And now a lot of guys are having it way earlier. But the protocol has changed so much. I was in a sling for probably a month and didn't move my arm at all. Then all of a sudden you start throwing. Now they have guys coming out of surgery moving their arm. So the protocol has changed so much. And instead of 12, if they can get you back in 14 months without any hiccups, they kind of do that now. So it's come so far. Guys are having it now and having no problems coming back throwing harder. That didn't happen for me, and ultimately it did kind of end my career.
Seems like there's a little less reservation about it today, or maybe then. That was in the late '90s, right? 2000, I think.
Yeah.
So it's been 20 years, like you said.
Yeah, they've come a long way.
So the thought process behind it's probably a little different too. But still, going forward, what are you mentally thinking from that?
I was just trying to throw hard, and I just couldn't get it back. I was 88, 90, and couldn't get anything back. And I was in AAA. I went to camp that year with Detroit. They were going to keep me back and extended. And I had already been sitting at home for a year. So I said, Dave Dombrowski was a GM at the time, and I was like, Dave, hey, I want my release. And he was reluctant to give it to me. Finally gave it to me. I went back with Chicago. They checked me out, said everything's fine. Then I went on to Charlotte, and I was throwing, and I just couldn't get anything going. I was doing fine. I had great numbers, but minus strikeouts. And I was doing great, but I just didn't feel good. So I packed my stuff one day, just left. I packed my stuff and said, I'm done. And all the guys rallied around me and said, hey, man, come on. Just give it another chance. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. So I said, all right, well, I'm going to go out this next game. I'm going to throw as hard as I can. If it blows up, it blows up. And then I'm done. So I went out there and I was 91, 93. Couldn't move my arm for like 2 days. But I threw hard again, and I just couldn't do it on a consistent basis. So from there, I just kept going. The next year, I go to independent league. I signed with the Dodgers, play AAA. Hurt my side in 03. 04, I go to camp. I had a really good year in 03, but didn't get called back up. 04, go to camp, get released, go to independent league, and then I go to winter ball. I say, well, I'll just show everyone that I'm healthy for the full year, go to winter ball. So I went to winter ball, did that whole thing. And I just kept hearing, Simas, you don't throw hard enough. You don't throw like you used to. And shoot, the year that I had no tendon in my arm in 90, what was that? 99, I think it was, or 2000. I pitched without a ligament the whole year. And, I was 84, 86, and we went to the playoffs and did really well. And my numbers, they were the best ERA and everything I had my whole career, minus strikeouts, because, it was hard to strike people out. But I just kept hearing that over and over. You're not throwing hard. You're not throwing hard enough. You're not throwing hard enough. And I'm like, hey, look back at 2000, man. I had the best year I ever had. You don't need to throw hard.
Right.
So that kind of stigma stuck with me. And, that was the end. I just kind of rolled around and played in Mexico and played independent ball a little bit until the job opened up with the Dodgers to become a coach. And my aspirations were never to be a coach. But I think as I got older, started helping out the young kids on the team, in winter ball and independent league and all that. And I just I said, man, why don't I just devote my time to help these kids achieve their dreams, So here I am.
What was that time in Mexico like? How was baseball there? Just the difference and culture and all that.
Yeah. You want to talk about grinding, man. You grind because there's not much good food there. So you eat whatever you can, and bus trips late at night on those roads that are barely big enough for a semi and a bus, and mirrors were taken off and all kinds of stuff. It was a fun experience for me. My kids got to go down there, meet people, and anybody that says you have to speak languages to communicate, you don't, because my kids were there, blonde hair, and all the Mexican kids were there, and they had a great time together, and they didn't understand one another or anything, but they had a great time. So I think it was a great experience for my family, great for me. But it was a grind, and that was the year I decided to hang him up after that, because I played in Mexico and then Puerto Rico, and I was home for like a month and saw my young kids only for a little bit, and I said, man, this is I've had enough. So,
and then talk about that too. Just I think Carson mentioned it when he did the show. Growing up, going to the ballpark, and how cool is that for you to be able to treat your kids to that atmosphere?
It was really cool, and a lot of it happened after when I was coaching. The majority of it, because they were so young when I played. One thing is it's not a regret. Obviously, I don't regret anything, but I just wish I could have played longer so they could have been there through the fun times. They came through the grind, but still, they enjoyed it, and I think it was awesome. If you think about all the kids that end up being superstars in the game, they all grew up around the ballpark, or a lot of them did. The Griffeys and the Bonds and all these guys.
Bichettes now. And
Bichettes,
Guerreros.
yeah, exact Guerreros. I mean, you just go down the list. They all just hung around the ballpark. So it was a great experience for everybody, and we had a really good time.
Well, let's get into coaching now. Your last year playing, it was in indie ball, and you actually said you were the pitching coach the first half, and in the second half you pitched and coached.
Yeah.
And then go through that, because that was your last time playing. And what was the decision? That you guys just needed a pitcher, and you're just like, I can do it?
Yeah, so the winter balls are funny. When you go to play winter ball, it's in the 9 and 10, So you go through Christmas and the New Year, and you start, to play in another year. So 2010, I go to Puerto Rico. I come back. I get a job. I had played in Long Island for 3 years to that point, and met a lot of people and wanted to start my coaching career. So they said, come on, you can be a pitching coach, So I did the pitching coach thing and still stayed in shape, played catch with everybody. And come about halfway through the season, the guys we were getting were bottom of the barrel. And Long Island, we had won a championship for the first time there in, I'm not sure, the 2004, my first year there, that we won a championship. And they wanted to win again. And I went to the ownership, and I'm like, guys, we're not going to win with this group. You keep these guys, you keep filtering in here. Why don't you guys let me pitch again? Because I closed there for them. And so they said, okay, finally, after, a little bit of talk, and they said, okay, go ahead. So I'd sit in the dugout for 5 innings and go down to the bullpen and close the games for the rest. It was fun. And that was quite an experience, just kind of, gaining respect to players, but then all of a sudden, hey, you're taking me out of the game, but then you come in and blow a save. Like, how does this work? Can I take you out of the game?
Or do you, how did that work? You took a guy out and just said, my gloves in my back pocket?
Yeah, exactly. It was quite an experience. And, fortunately for me, it didn't happen too often that I blew a save, but, I didn't do my job all the time. And it was just one of those things. And, you're a player, you're a coach, and it was fun.
And then you get into the Raptors, going to your first legitimate coaching experience with that organization, because, we've talked about it. The independent ball is totally different than affiliated. So now you're back in affiliated as a coach.
Yeah, I actually, Rafael Chavez, who when I went in 2004, I got picked up by Seattle when I was in the first time in Long Island. And I went to Seattle, AAA Tacoma, and that's when I first started going to winter ball. Rafi Chavez was a pitching coach there, and he asked me if I wanted to play winter ball. I said, well, I never have, and I want to, show everybody I'm healthy. Absolutely, I'll go. Well, Rafi Chavez ended up being a pitching coordinator for the Dodgers in 2011, and he invited me over and, talked a little bit, and I ended up getting the job there and going to the Ogden Raptors. But now it's like, hey, you just can't be talking to the guys. You got to actually have a philosophy on pitching. And so your whole philosophy starts on, who are you as a coach? How are you going to relate to the players and all that good stuff. So it was a good experience. I was much younger. Players coming in from college now, they already set in their ways. You kind of got to wean them off of things the way they were done in college. You go from pitching every 7 days to pitching every 5 days, routines. You had to really dig in and really find out who you were as a coach.
And you got to have those conversations that they had with you. You know, hey,
Oh yeah.
you're not a starter anymore. You're going to the bullpen. You know,
Yeah.
what's one of the biggest differences that you saw versus playing and coaching? Like, what was the
Playing and coaching, I think playing, you go out, you perform, people watch you, you get a job. You do your job, you keep getting a job. As a coach, it's who you know. It's not what you know. Who you know. So somebody comes in and gets you under their wing, and you start going out, and then once you get a team, then you have to build the trust of the player, because if you don't have the trust, the players aren't going to listen to you. So now it is, well, do you trust, once you get the trust, now you can start coaching the player. So the biggest thing for me was the trust of the players, that whatever you're telling them, you're telling everybody else in the front office or whoever else is listening, scouts or whoever else. So I think trust is number one for me, was the biggest difference.
Do you ever fight for a guy versus maybe the front office or the manager and say, hey, no, man, you guys are making the wrong move here? Had you ever go to battle for that?
Yes, I have. Yes. And the way that we operate is everybody's in a room. When those days come, which aren't great days for anybody, because we never want to release anybody and tell them their dreams are shattered, make it to the big leagues. And they ask everybody, anybody want to save them? You raise your hand. You need to have a really good reason you want to save them. It can't be just the guy's a good guy. Good guys, they're great, but it doesn't always work. So, yeah, and I've battled for a lot of guys over the years. And kept guys playing for even 2-3 years, I think, as long as you can. But it comes a point for everybody in everybody's career that there's just not going to happen. So you do keep guys around sometimes if you're on the fence on a couple guys and one guy's a better teammate. Teammate behavior is very important, especially with the Dodgers and the culture we're trying to create there. Teammate behavior is very important, and we'll keep a guy every once in a while if he's a better person than the next guy.
And we talked, you're going into your 10th year coaching. Out of the 9, you've been into the playoffs 6 times as a pitching coach, which is it's hard.
And did win a championship, I think.
15 in Rancho Cucamonga High A.
Yeah. So that's good on a resume. Being able to go to the playoffs, because that's hard to do in the minors, and with all the organizations out there. Now you have 1 more year on your contract,
correct? And
then, we kind of talked earlier about what are your plans for hoping that you get a new one, or you're going back to Oklahoma City,
correct?
And then, where from there?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to be a big league pitching coach. One day I'd like to coach the best players in the world. That'd be really fun. Every once in a while now in AAA, we have the up and down elevator that goes all the time, and it's a little bit tough. You got to talk guys off the ledge that come down. You go, hey man, you're going to be all right. You're going to get called back up. There's just a lot of differences in AAA for sure. But I want to be a big league coach. I have 1 more year. Dodgers are a great organization. They just hired a new pitching coach and brought Josh Bard in as a bullpen guy. Hired an assistant, which was a guy out of A-ball with us. So, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the future is with the Dodgers. I know they're a great organization. I know I want to be a pitching coach. I want to get back to the big leagues. I just have to keep grinding away at all the new technology, all the science in the game. Have a lot of experience. I just think I need to continue to brush up on all the other stuff and get in front of the right people one day and, see what happens.
Yeah, we talked about that, and I was raised old school, and, more than anything is a lot of the vision of a coach is kind of getting out of the game with all the analytics and all that. And like I say is, to look at a piece of paper where there's numbers and stuff like that it's not telling the guy what kind of adjustments he can make, rather than actually seeing something or even hearing something. Like a hitting coach, you hear the bat, you can almost hear something, but that pitching aspect, we talked about it. You had a guy come down that had a timing issue, and you look back at video and saw that he did a tap with his glove and ball together before he released. And that was the only adjustment. No computer is going to tell you that's the adjustment you need to make. And that was the difference for him. He was back in the big leagues, you know? So it's just like, I get you have to know both, but do you think it's kind of, I mean, I don't know how much you can say, but I mean, what are your thoughts on I know you're old school and you like the vision part more.
I think it's both ways though, because
Yeah. I mean,
like
a lot can
that's
help.
a great point, and I think
Yeah.
that's really that's what those guys go down there to get. But I think when you're, you know, even with Loop and you're seeing the hot sheets,
Yeah.
you know, and you're trying to see, you know, what the pitchers do consistently.
Well, I'm okay with the hot sheets. I'm talking about as hitting coaches and pitching coaches. Those coaches should be the ones that are more
and I'm saying
hands-on.
tendencies. Those that can help
Yeah.
him. Hey
Yeah.
man, I'm going through our charts here, and you're throwing a lot of this in this count.
Yeah.
You know, where that may help analytically with the numbers, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, versus what you're saying mechanically, there's nothing that's going to show that. So
No.
I mean,
No.
Yeah, we have mocap now. We have Kinetrax cameras. We have so many things now out there. I guess the best answer I can put is, you know, I think it can expedite the process when you're helping a guy. You know, you can dig in on a guy and it could take a month for you to retrain him and his movement patterns and all that. Or you can just, you know, go, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And you're checking all these boxes and you're a month down the road and you finally figure out the one key. Well, you can put a guy on a camera and all of a sudden it spits back information and you know it right away. Like, this is it. You know, you're not using your lower half. Well, you might already know that, but now you have something else that kind of tells you the same thing. So I guess the one way to put it is some baseball guys can see things. Now the computer verifies what you say. So you could take it to the player. And now these players are much different. They grow up in a different era than we did, where we could just use a key from a coach. A coach gives us a word and we know, like, okay, that's great. We make that adjustment. But these players now come from video age. It's all they do is sit on their phone. They need something else to validate your point.
Yeah.
And they ask you questions. Why? Well, because I think so. Well, that doesn't work anymore.
No.
You know, this is what I see. Well, what do you mean this is what you see? Well, through my experience, this is what I see. Well, this information that we're given now actually can expedite everything and probably, you know, help things out. I think that we as coaches that have a lot of experience and have coached a lot, we see things. These new generation of coaches that are coming in, they see things on computer screens or they see things through a printout. Well, they are seeing the same thing we're seeing with our eyes, but they're seeing it through video or, you know, movement patterns that they're getting on a computer. So I think it's great and I'm all for it. I use all the information, but I also still use my eyes. I think there's some of that to it. And also there's this thing that we're kind of struggling with right now is in the industry is real versus feel, because you see something and somebody moves a certain way in the computer through mocap or Kinetrax, and it shows you that a person's moving a certain way. And you go to the athlete and you say, hey, this is what it's telling you. Well, he's moving that way, but it's because he's not putting himself in a position like way sooner in the sequence. So real versus feel is kind of something that we're kind of trying to you know, whittle our way through a little bit. But technology's in the game, and it's not going away anytime soon. And you got to dive in and learn it. And I think at some point, you know, us guys that have been around a long time, and we're gonna eventually flip the script, and we're gonna know as much as these new generation guys that come in, plus our experience. Is going to weigh a little bit heavier.
And I think that's what the experience, you know, I feel like that is something that you just can't lose the experience. Like these young guys with the computers and all that, it's easy to say the numbers, but you've been there, you've done it. That experience doesn't go away. And to me, I always felt as a player, I liked that more from a coach. Like I knew a coach saying something that I know he's been there. I know it's, you know, that kind of, you know, for me, it's that way, but I'm an old school player too. I'm not a guy that looks at computers and sees things the way they do now, but I think that would benefit more having both.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and if you look across the landscape of ex-big leaguers that coach, if you're not on board with this new technology, you're probably not in the game coaching anymore. So it's something we joke around. Guys that have been around, we call ourselves hybrids. You know, we're kind of hybrids. We've done it all.
How so? Like when you send a guy, I forget who the Dodgers. It sent a couple guys down. I think Ross Stripling got sent down right for
Yeah, a lot
a
of
year
times.
ago.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll send guys, but they won't really send them.
Okay.
They'll come in. They'll come in. Well, they'll come in for a day, and throw, and then they're right back up. But they've sent a lot of guys. Ferguson's been down. Scott Alexander's been down. They've sent a lot of guys down, and when they do, they have a definite plan for the guy. And then you just, if you see something different, you need to call and to get the okay to go ahead and do it. But they already have they'll send down a plan and talk with you about it. And then, you're always in touch with the big league guys to make sure that everything's going straight. But that's usually how they do it.
I think was it Ryu?
Yeah,
Made a rehab start. I mean, I think he made it in Fresno.
Reno.
Was it Reno?
Reno.
What are those days? I mean, you're on their plan? What they need you to see? Or are they calling you after the ball game? Hey, how'd this go? Or there's somebody there to?
It kind of depends. If a guy's struggling with a mechanical issue or a pitch or something like that, then it's kind of, they want to check on him and make sure things are going okay. Ryu came down. It was an injury thing. He came down, and you just kind of got to be ready, talk to his interpreter. Hey, how does he like to, what time does he like to go out? Make sure you know his routine. You don't want to mess with those guys' routine because they're established big leaguers. They have a routine. So you kind of do that stuff and then just hand them the information. If they want it, they don't always want it. As far as a game plan, they're just going to go out and work on their pitches and do their thing. Some of them will want information. So you got to make sure that they have the information. And get with a catcher, and sign systems that they use. We want to use those. So those days are kind of easy. Those guys are on their own. They come in, they leave, they buy you a spread, and they're gone. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Now you have two sons, Cole Simas, Carson Simas. Cole is at University of San Diego. And is he just going to pitch?
Yes, he is just a pitcher.
And how's he doing? How's his arm?
He's good. He went to see the doctor, and he has some nerve stuff going on in his forearm, but they've kind of alleviated that, and I think we're over that hump there. It might be something that always kind of rears its head every once in a while, but we have something in place to take care of it if it does. Actually, Botox shots is something, I guess it just relaxes the area and allows the nerves to move more freely. So speaking of that, I'm actually going to get him on the 21st in LA, and we're going to take him down and hook him up and see if we can't get his body moving right. Use some of the science stuff. A guy, Jimmy Buffy, that was with us, and now he had started his own company, Reboot Motion. We're going to get with him, and we're going to see if we can't get the velo a little bit up for him. So it's going to be a fun time.
So is he looking to be good for the spring?
Yeah, no, he's good. He's already been throwing this fall. I've watched him a bunch of times. He looks good. He's sitting about 88, 90, touch 91. We'd like to get that number up a little bit more, 3, 4 if we can. So if we can get it out of his body, we're going to try to get it out of his body. So it's been a fun process. But now, I really, when you sit back and you get to a certain place, and as a father, everybody pushes their kids and wants them to play all the time. And, I haven't really coached my kids a whole lot. I mean, I've given them a little bit of stuff, but we don't grind in the backyard. And I just let them go out and be athletes and go play the game. And now it's time with Cole where we're going to dig in a little bit, and we're going to have some fun. So I can't wait to put a little time into to Cole, and family first here, and we'll see what happens.
Do you think there's I don't want to say too much, but do you think that there's too much for younger kids going on right now? When I get texts about pitching lessons for a 7 or 8 year old, like I just said, man, you're ridiculous.
Yeah, I do. I think there's too much. I wish people wouldn't play fall ball. I wish they'd play another sport. I think the best time for Carson, my youngest son, was he decided he's a really good soccer player, but he decided he didn't want to play soccer. He didn't want to play his freshman year, and then his sophomore year, he decided, hey, I want to play soccer again, Dad. I said, hey, great, go play. Well, he ended up getting behind in baseball that year because he didn't hit or anything. He was playing soccer in there at the same time. So he, but that year he got his speed back. You know, he had grown 6 inches that summer, and he was kind of slow and cumbersome, and he was always a fast little kid and fast twitch guy. And he went and played soccer, and next thing you know, he ran fast again. So I'm like, man, this is great. So I wish kids would go play other sports, and the repetitive muscle use, I think, has something to do with injuries in today's game. And I think the kids, whether it's the parents, which most of the time I think it is, I think parents think that if their kids go and they spend all this money on lessons, that they're going to get it back through college education. Man, you know, it's hard to do. And I think that's something kids should and parents should look into, is playing other sports and using other muscles and becoming, a well-rounded athlete versus just a good thrower or a good hitter.
I think you said it perfectly too, is you're using different muscles when you do other sports. And we just had our football guys come back. We're doing a little bit of some stuff, and even during conditioning and hitting and throwing, you're using different muscles than you would for football. And, yeah, so it's working your whole body, and I think that's with, Carson. He's just a spectacular athlete, anyways. But to be doing more jumping,
more agility stuff
with soccer and working on his calves, and I think that might have built up his speed because he's,
Well, yeah, you look at what it did with range. You know what I mean? He was an outstanding shortstop.
Yeah, he's got all the tools, and I've said that plenty of times. Anybody I've ever talked to, and it's nice having him back and being able to work with him. And but what's that like for you as a father too? Is having your son get drafted and
doing the draft process and
well, you had to do it away though. You were still in season when it was going on.
I was actually in a game. It was about the 8th or 9th inning of the game when he did get drafted. They said day 2, and I wasn't sure it was going to be day 2. Day 2 rolls around. He's calling me, Dad, what's going on? I said, son, just take it easy. You'll be all right. And, Josh Lamberdera gave me a call, and it was probably about the 5th inning of the game. He asked me a couple questions and, just making sure his signability was still there, even though he was pushed later in the rounds. And I was like, yeah, we're still on board. And about the 9th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning, he texts me, hey, you watching? And I got my phone, and I'm supposed to be coaching the game, man. And everybody understood, And all the guys came in from the clubhouse because they're watching the draft in the clubhouse, and they all came down and congratulated me. It's one of the greatest feelings you could ever have as a father. Just, you want your kids to do the best. Now, are they going to be professional athletes? It's really hard to do. Let's be honest. But it's one of those things that it makes you feel good.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know, but just by the way my dad reacted, when I was drafted, I can only imagine what it would feel like to have your son drafted, and now start that process, like almost the same time as you. I mean, you went to JUCO, but then to start professionally and to see him go for his first, short season. He was in, Florida, but now to come back in his first off season and kind of go with him and show him the ropes, because you did it for all those years. And he's been out there, he's been grinding, you've been grinding with him. And, I hope nothing for the best for Carson. I love that kid, and he's got all the tools, and when he figures it out, it's going to be scary.
Yeah. And that's something too. I think there is definite advantage to him going into the process. I've been through it. So we kind of coached him through that, and he was really good about that. Then when he gets drafted to go off, I knew he was going to struggle his first year. In the track, to see a guy throwing 90 is great, which you don't see very often. He's going and seeing 95 from the left side. Everybody coming in blowing cheese, and he struggled a little bit. And I think just talking to him going into it, not to tell him he was going to fail, but just say, hey, it's going to be a struggle, man. And he knew it. And I think that does help him, because when you are struggling and you can think back, hey, my dad told me it was going to be tough, where he didn't want to come home. He didn't think he didn't belong right away. So it's fun. And you're right. When he does figure it out, it's going to be fun. I think he's still probably a couple years away from actually figuring it out, but he's going to, he's keep grinding. He's doing well. You guys are working on some great stuff. And, I think he's going to get bigger and stronger. He's strong, lanky, strong now, but I think he's going to get bigger and stronger. And when he does that and learns what he can do, and he'll have his swing down by then, and he can always field. He's always had a knack for the ball, instincts, which you can't teach, you can enhance.
No,
you
his
can't
baseball
teach. IQ is there.
Bar none, top notch.
It's going to be really fun.
Yeah. I can't wait. I'm excited. I love following him and seeing what he does. And I would text him every now and then. And I know how rough it is being there. And you don't want to let people know that, it's rough. But
he was guest 1 and Dad's guest 30. We kind of messed that one up a little bit, I guess, huh? One thing before we wrap up, I did want to ask you, and we've had this conversation with, Coach Underwood and in the bigs. Have you ever had to, for the team, drill somebody?
Yeah.
Do you remember? You remember that story or who it was and what the beef was? I just want to get one.
Well, it's Chicago. Chicago has beef with everybody.
Yeah. We had one of the biggest brawls in history. If you look at it, 2000 with the Detroit Tigers. But that wasn't the one I was thinking of. That was a big fight, kind of nasty fight. But that's not the one. The one I remember, I was warming up in Cleveland. This is after Albert Bell comes over from Cleveland. The fans were on him because they had done so good while he was there. Fans were on him. He's throwing up 55 and going like this with his back pocket, like 55 in my pocket. And I guess there was a beef with him and Jose Mesa, the closer, when he was there. I'm not sure what it was, but I'm warming up in the pen. Art Kushner's my bullpen coach. I'm warming up. AB gets drilled. Some words were exchanged. No big deal.
Was it Mesa that drilled him?
Jose Mesa drilled him. So I'm warming up, and I look at my coach, and I go, hey, what's the deal? What's going on? He played for Cleveland. You could just sense something wasn't right. He goes, nothing. Don't do any, don't worry about it. And I'm warming up, and I'm getting more mad. So I come in the game, pitch an inning. Come back in the dugout, and here comes the manager, Terry Bevington. He's like, hey, what happened? I said, what do you mean what happened? I asked Caveman, Art Kushner, hey, I asked him what was going on. He goes, no. He goes, Ray Durham didn't tell you? I said, no. Well, when you run right by the second baseman. Ray Durham was the second baseman. I was supposed to hit Alomar, the catcher, and I didn't. And I said, well, Sugar Bear never told me anything. And he goes, whatever. And the players are mad at me now. Everyone's mad because everybody knew what was supposed to happen. I didn't do it. The manager goes, don't worry about it. I stood up in that dugout and I said, hey, all you guys, I'm going to do this thing. I don't care what you say. Manager says, no, don't do anything. Well, I got 2 outs and I hit Marquise Grissom on the shirt. I didn't even get him very good. He waves his bat at me, and I just say, come on, little guy, let's go, man. Let's go. He didn't come out. But that was one time that I was actually told to hit somebody. And there are times where you try to brush people back, and you just kind of get in a little bit too far. But that was one. And the reason that resonated with me so much is because there was a pitcher, Danny Darwin, I played with. And, Danny was Dr. Death back in the day, right? I mean, his nickname, he used to be intimidating and hit a lot of people. But he told me a story. And probably 2 weeks before this happened, he told me, he said that he was supposed to hit somebody. And there was already a warning in the game, so he didn't hit anybody. And the manager reamed him when he came in the dugout. And he said, I'll never do that again if somebody tells me to do something. So then this happens to me 2 weeks later. And I'm like, holy cow. And that's why I reacted the way I did. And I went out and got Grissom, unfortunately. But yeah, it happens. I mean, it's part of the game. And that's, I played in the era where the Toronto Blue Jays Frank Thomas was afraid of the ball. Biggest human being, but was a little bit afraid of the ball. So Pat Hinkton and those starters in Toronto would drill him like his first AB of the series all the time. It was one of those things. So we were always protecting our big guys, and that's just the way the game was. It doesn't happen as much anymore. It still does a little bit. I loved the series when Greinke did what he did to Soto. I don't know if you guys have seen the video clip on Instagram or not, but respect the vet. I love it. It just doesn't happen enough anymore. But it's part of the game, man. When you're out there, you take care of your guys, man, and your warriors, man. You go to battle. That's it.
It's good stuff.
I love stories.
Yeah, we had to get one. You were here, and there was no way I couldn't not get one of those stories. Not every day you talk to a guy pitching the big leagues.
Yeah, it happens.
What about your first homer? Who'd you give that up to?
I don't know if I remember my first homer, man. I gave him up a lot to the little rice burners, man. Big guys, there was swing and miss. I could find it. But little guys took me deep a lot. I lost 2 opening days. Actually, A-Rod got a hit through the 4-hole on me in Seattle, below it. And then Joe Catalanato took me deep, 3-run homer in Texas for opening day. So lots of homers. I just don't remember my first.
What about, I remember when you were at the Dodgers, because you'd take batting practice with us at City.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually hits left-handed. Mm-hmm. And do you remember, did you ever get a big league hit?
No, I never hit the big leagues. No. I had 2 times I got ABs. One was in spring training. We were on the road playing in Tucson. High Corbett, we were playing Colorado. And I pitched the 8th because I was closing and there was no 9th because we were losing. We were on the road. So they said, hey, you're going to pitch the 8th. So I pitched the 8th. Well, we rally around to my spot in the lineup. And we had no more pitching. So they go, Simas, you're hitting. So I got to hit off of Curtis Lescanic. You talk about nasty. Dude was 94 sink. I missed the first 2 by 2 feet. Then he throws me a 4-seamer. I choke up on the bat. I foul it off. Then he throws me a slider. I'm gone.
Not even fair.
Yeah, I got 1 AAA hit, though. I did get a hit in AAA. Right over the shortstop's head, inside out. Kept my hands inside him, man. Yeah, a little late on it.
Yeah. Hey, it works. A hit's a hit.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. Thanks for coming out today, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Hopefully we figure out what's going on in the future and keep us posted. And definitely good luck to the boys. And Chad, anything else, man?
No, I appreciate it, and I've known you for a long time, and I'm glad we got to get you on, and good stories.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And,
a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. So thanks again, and we'll be seeing you. So we'll have to get you on next year. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good luck to you this year, and I hope everything goes well. I know you love what you do, and that's a big thing that's getting lost too. Is people are in the game not always for the right reasons, but you love the game, and it's good to see.
Cool deal.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
No problem. Well, everybody, that's episode 30 of the Hit or Die podcast.
Hit or Die.